Hey there, 6th grade. In this next video, we're going to look at operations with rational numbers. When I say that phrase rational numbers, I'm talking about numbers that can be written as fractions. So any number that can be written as a fraction would be considered a rational number. This would include your integers, which is what we've been working with through this point, and certain types of decimals. So we're going to put together what we know about operations with integers, how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide those, along with what you already know from the beginning of the year about fractions and decimals, and practice simplifying all three types of expressions. Okay, so in number one, we have negative 3/4 plus 11/12. So we're being asked to combine a negative fraction with a positive fraction, and if you remember anything about fractions, adding and subtracting fractions, you're required to have common denominators. So that's the first thing that we're going to do for this problem, is to get common denominators. So you have a 4 in the first fraction and a 12 in the second fraction. The least common denominator of 4 and 12 is 12. So you should multiply your first fraction by a 3 on both the bottom and the top. And if you do that, you get a 9 over 12, but remember this was a negative 3/4, so you should put that negative sign in front of the 9/12. So this becomes negative 9/12 plus 11/12. When you add and subtract fractions, once the denominators are common, you keep the denominator the same. So we're going to write this as one big fraction with 12 as the denominator. And now for the numerators, let's think about this. We have a negative here for this first fraction, so that's like having a negative 9 in the numerator plus 11. So I want you to write it just like this, as one big fraction, but in the numerator it's negative 9 plus 11. So in the numerator, think about your integer rules. If you have 9 negatives and you're combining that with 11 positives, that's going to give you an answer of 2. So this becomes 2 over 12. 2 over 12 will reduce, so that's our last step, is to reduce this fraction, and that reduces to 1/6. So the answer to this is 1/6. Okay, number 2. This time we're adding, or combining, should I say, two decimals, negative 26.3 plus 8.9. So even though this is a decimal, think about that as being negative there, and then this next decimal is positive. So remember, when you're combining integers with different signs, you take the difference or subtract the numbers. Well, we'll do the same thing here with these decimals. We're going to do subtraction, and we're going to do 26.3 minus 8.9. When you're adding and subtracting decimals, remember we line up the decimal points. So this is how I'm going to set up that problem. If I subtract correctly, I should get 17.4, but you have to look and see what kind of sign you need on the 17.4. The absolute value of negative 26.3 is larger than the absolute value of 8.9, so that means that our answer is a negative 17.4. So it's really important, in addition to getting the correct numbers in your computation, is to make sure you have the correct signs in every single step. Okay, don't just ignore the signs. Okay, number 3, we have negative 1 and 1/2 times 5 and 3/4. This is a multiplication problem. So you know, for multiplication, if you just look at the signs right away, that will tell you the sign of your answer. We have a negative times a positive here, so we know we're going to get a negative for our answer. So now, if you're multiplying two mixed numbers together, we want to make those improper fractions first. So negative 1 and 1/2, if you take 2 times 1 and add 1, you get 3, so this becomes negative 3/2. And then our second fraction, 4 times 5 is 20, plus 3 is 23, so this is 23 over 4. Again, make sure you bring down this sign each time. When you're multiplying fractions, you don't need common denominators. We're just going to multiply straight across. So this becomes negative 3 times 23 in the top, and then 2 times 4 in the bottom. Look for opportunities to cancel, and in this one we can't cancel anything, so we just take negative 3 times 23. In the top, that's going to give us negative 69. And in the denominator, 2 times 4 is 8. So now we'll make this back into a mixed number. Again, I know my answer is going to be negative. 69 divided by 8, well, 8 will go into 69 8 whole times. And then if you get the correct remainder, you should get a remainder of 5. So that becomes negative 8 and 5/8. Okay, number 4, this time we're multiplying decimals, negative 2.59 times negative 0.68. We're multiplying two negatives, so we know our answer is going to be positive. So I'll just write that there to remind myself. So now off to the side, I can do 2.59 times 0.68. When you're multiplying decimals, remember you don't line up the decimal points. In this problem, they just happen to line up, but we put the decimal in at the very end in a multiplication problem. So we'll take 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 5 is 40, plus our 7 is 47. 8 times 2 is 16, plus our 4 is 20. And now I'll erase those and do my next line. I need to put a 0 here. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 5 is 35. And 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So we get a 2, a 1, a 6, a 7, and a 1. And we're going to use 4 places after our decimal, so that gives us 1.7612. And our answer, we said again, was positive, so it's positive 1.7612. Okay, on the back side, number 5, negative 7 2/3 divided by negative 2/9. So division, again, determine your sign right away. It's a negative divided by a negative, so we get a positive for our answer. Let's remind ourselves how we divide fractions. Okay, so I see a mixed number here, so let me go ahead and make that an improper fraction first. 3 times 7 plus 2 is 23, so this is negative 23/3 divided by negative 2/9. Okay, so our first step is to make our mixed numbers improper. Dividing fractions, we flip the second fraction and we multiply. So we're going to make this division sign multiplication. Negative 2/9, if we flip that, we get negative 9/2. Again, don't change the sign, it's still a negative, but your numerator and denominator are going to flip. And our first fraction will keep negative 23/3. So now we multiply straight across. Our numerators are negative 23 times negative 9. Our denominators are 3 times 2. I can cancel my 3 and my 9 by dividing both by 3, so I'll do that. I'm left with a 1 and a negative 3 here. So now in the numerator I have negative 23 times negative 3. That's going to give me positive 69. And in the denominator, 1 times 2 is 2. So I get 69/2. Make this a mixed number. 2 will go into 6 3 times. And then 2 will go into 9 4 times with the remainder of 1. So this becomes 34 1/2. Number 6, this is negative 2.47 minus 8.02. So it's combining these two decimals. So I need to pay attention to the signs here. A negative combined with another negative means we're going to add 2.47 and 8.02. But because we're combining two negatives together, we know our answer is going to be negative. So again, think about the sign of your answer. This one is going to be a negative answer. So again, I'm adding these together here. 7 plus 2 is 9, 4 plus 0 is 4, and 2 plus 8 is 10. So we get negative 10.49 for our answer. Number 7, negative 8/9 minus negative 5/6. So I see a double sign right away. Minus negative means plus. So we're going to add 5/6. So this problem really should be written like this: negative 8/9 plus 5/6. We need common denominators in order to do this. So for 6 and 9, the LCD would be 18. So I can multiply 9 by 2 to get 18, and I can multiply 6 by 3 to get 18. So my first fraction is going to become negative 16 over 18. Again, remember to keep that negative sign. The second fraction, we're adding 15 over 18. So this problem becomes negative 16 plus 15 all over 18. Negative 16 plus 15 gives us negative 1 in the numerator. So it's negative 1 over 18, or we could just write that as negative 1/18. Okay, the last problem, this is division with decimals. So we have a positive divided by a negative. You know your answer is going to be negative. So it's 0.595 divided by 0.07. When you're dividing decimals, remember we want to make our divisor a whole number, so we'll move our decimal point 2 places to the right. And then we move our decimal and the dividend the same number of places. So it's going to go here between 9 and 5. So now we're taking 7. 7 won't go into 5, so we're going to try to take 7 into 59. 7 will go into 59 8 whole times, and 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, I get a 3 here. Bring down the 5, 7 goes into 35 5 whole times, and we're going to be done after that. So this is a 8.5, but remember our answer is supposed to be negative, so really it's negative 8.5. Okay, we'll be practicing this more in class the next time we see you. Until then, have a nice day. You're all wonderful people. Take care.